All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're breaking down a huge career move that a lot of people are facing, jumping from public service into the private sector. It is a big leap, for sure. So we're going to walk through exactly how you can make that transition a massive success. And look, this is a super timely topic because the whole career landscape is really shifting right now. After some steady growth in government jobs back in 2024, there are some significant federal workforce layoffs expected in 2025. And that's pushing a ton of really dedicated, talented public servants to look for new opportunities in the private sector, many for the very first time. So that brings us to the big question, right? How do you actually translate a career that's been built on things like policy, compliance, and national service into a language that a corporate hiring manager not only understands, but, gets excited about? Public service has its own lingo, its own metrics for success, which means you have to totally reframe how you talk about your skills and what you've accomplished. So where do you even begin? Well, before you touch a single line on your resume, the very first step is a huge mindset shift. You've got to learn to think like the private sector. You have to understand that their goals and their language are just fundamentally different. Okay, so just look at how the core missions are different. Let's take cybersecurity, for instance. In the government, your job is all about national security. But in a private company, it's about protecting company assets, protecting customer data. The technical skills might be exactly the same, but the why behind the work is worlds apart. So your job, your entire job, is to connect what you did to their goals: revenue, scalability, and profit. And here's another thing you've got to watch out for. Government job titles almost never translate directly. An executive officer in one agency might basically be doing the work of a vice president, but in another, they're much closer to a chief of staff. You can't just copy and paste your title. You've got to dig into what you actually did, your day-to-day responsibilities, to find the right corporate equivalent. And now we get to what is probably the most critical part of this whole thing: translating your accomplishments. This is where the magic happens. This is where you learn to speak the language of business and rewrite your story to make a corporate recruiter sit up and pay attention. So take a look at this. This is a real bullet point from a government resume. Now, it's 100% accurate, but to a hiring manager, phrases like OMB, Circular A11, or congressional mandates, they mean absolutely nothing. It's just a wall of dense jargon that doesn't communicate any real business value at all. But now, look at this. What a transformation. This version speaks the language of business. It's using powerful universal terms like P&L performance, a $50 million operating budget, and cost efficiency. It takes the exact same experience and reframes it to show direct, measurable business impact. This right here is what you're aiming for. So how do you even find these skills to translate? Well, it turns out there's a fantastic framework you can borrow, and it comes from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management's 5 Executive Core Qualifications, the ECQs. Things like leading change, being decisive, solving complex problems. These aren't just government skills, these are universal leadership skills that any employer is desperate to find. You also have to tackle that old stereotype head on, the one that says government is slow. Your resume is the perfect place to bust that myth. Think about it. Did you make a quick, impactful decision? Did you figure out a way to streamline some bureaucratic process? Did you deliver a huge project under a crazy tight deadline? You need to highlight those moments to prove that you can thrive in a fast-paced environment. Okay, so your resume is sharp. It's focused. It speaks the language of business. But even the world's best resume is totally useless if the right people never see it. And that, my friends, is where your network comes in. And listen, this is something you absolutely have to understand. In the private sector, the vast majority of jobs are not filled by someone who just blindly applied on a website. No way. They're secured through personal connections and referrals. This means building a network outside of your government circles isn't just a good idea. It's non-negotiable. It's essential for your job search. So here's your game plan. Before you do anything else, get really clear on your own goals. Then start reaching out. Talk to friends, former classmates who are already in the private sector. Ask your current colleagues if they can make introductions. Go to industry events, join associations, and don't be afraid to ask for informational interviews just to learn about a company or a role. Every single one of these conversations opens a new door. All right, let's bring this all together and talk about the final takeaway. The entire process we've just walked through is really about one fundamental transformation: turning that long, detailed government CV into a sharp, focused corporate resume. So what does this shift actually look like in practice? Well, you're going from a document that can be 5 pages long and details everything you've ever done to a tight 1 or 2 page resume that only highlights what is relevant to the job you want. You're trading in all that government jargon for business-focused language that screams impact and value. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to really chew on. Your time in public service has given you a truly unique perspective. You've got unparalleled experience navigating incredibly complex systems and a deep commitment to seeing a mission through. The key is to see that background not as something to downplay, but as your unique strength. Your challenge and your greatest opportunity is to get crystal clear on articulating exactly what that value is.